Good evening, men, women, and children. I am Aries 1080p, and today we will be delving into the world of my mind, or the mind of any pro player, highly skilled player, global elite player, ESEA rank A+, whatever you want to call them. This is how the high tier people think, and I'm going to be dissecting it down in a series of short videos on different topics within the game. Now today's topic is angle clearing and peeking, and how to do them properly, and the difference between good crosshair placement and good angle clearing. And so without further ado, I'm going to hop into the server and get this shit rolling. Everything you're about to hear is me talking off the cuff while in server, so sorry if I sound like a rambling asshole, but I'll let you go, and we'll teleport right to when I get into it. See you on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, so today we'll be discussing how to properly check angles when playing specifically on the terrorist side, but it's also applied if you're a CT retaking site, or like if, for example, you're on CT holding A site over yonder and you want to push into A main. Just how to have your crosshair placement set up, and I'm going to show you the difference between standard crosshair placement as well as your angle checking placement. So first and foremost, the thing you've been hearing ever since you got the game is that you should always be aiming head level. So if I'm coming through Z, my crosshair's like this, I'm always ready. In case someone peeks, my crosshair's at head level, I'm ready to engage. My crosshair, by the way, is more choppy than a lot of people because I play on a really high sensitivity compared to most players. Like, I play on an insane sensitivity. So especially if you're on a low sensitivity, you should be really smooth and fluent, just checking every single thing, pre-aiming head level. But when you get into higher tier play, the difference between just running around pre-aiming head level and properly clearing angles is different. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say that there is a CT player with an AWP holding white box right here, as you would expect them to do, and they're holding mid. Now let's just say, for the sake of this example, I was laid off of spawn, but I still want to peek mid. If I just come out pre-aiming head level like this, my head's going to be knocked off. I'm going to be dead. There's no question about it. As long as their AWP has reaction time and or can point and shoot straight, I'm going to die. So what you're going to want to do when clearing an angle is you're pre-aiming head level this whole way. I'm just walking for the sake of the example. But when you know it's time to clear that angle, you're going to stop pre-aiming head level and you're going to center your crosshair preemptively for the angle that you're peeking, and then boom, you're already on it. I was a little low there, but for each map, the more you play it, and especially if you deathmatch on it, you're going to learn how to check every angle. So up, we checked white box close, alright, white box far. Now I'm centering for Z, alright, Z's clear. And that's how you can see in these professional level matches, when there's an AWPer holding right there, and your favorite pro player with his AK just swings and knocks his head off. It's not because he's coming out swinging like this. He's not doing this. He's not moving his crosshair. His crosshair is already where that player's head is, and he's just A and D'ing. He's just using his movement keys to center, and then all he has to do is swing and counter strafe, and the AWPer's head is gone. In my personal opinion, CSGO is a game of peeker's advantage, and what I mean by that is if you're holding an angle, you have to react to a guy peeking you and follow up with a shot. So unless you have really good reaction times, this can be a problem. If you're the one choosing the engagement, you know I am going to shoot here as soon as I can, and I know when I'm going to peek. So you have timing on your side. You know exactly when you can take that gunfight, whereas the other player has to react to that gunfight. So once again, if we're just clearing with pre-aim head level, we're just doing this. But let's say I know there's a guy truck. The difference between me just going head level and doing this is that A, I'm swinging wide, and this player's going to be ready for it, and if he's a high-skilled player, he's going to knock my head off, as opposed to just centering it. You know, I'm already ready for it. Although, I can't really think of a time that a guy has just been caught standing like this. Usually they're like this. But you get the point of what I'm saying. It's the same thing if we're trying to take the A site. So let's say we're here in A main. We hit our smoke. Obviously, you don't want to expose to NBK/fence when you do it, but just for the sake of the example, I'm playing sloppy. So, you know, I'm pre-aimed head level, but then, for me personally, I'm going to take this, swing, alright, that's clear, then I recenter, quad's clear, recenter for default sight, it's clear, and this is obviously smoked, but if you need to, you can jiggle close sight like that, and then truck, and then fork. And you clear the angles in that way. So that's the difference between clearing an angle versus just general headshot practice. Now with that said, if you aren't intending on taking a sight or clearing an angle, or, you know, not expecting a guy to be holding something, you should just be doing what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to come in here pre-aiming close to red crate. You don't need to do that in an average match. The obvious exception is if your whole team's an A main and some guy mid says, oh hey, I just died mid, they're pushing into garage, then obviously you'd want to take the angle as such. But if your team just calls, hey, let's rotate off of A main, let's go try and get the bomb down B, for example, like you've noticed they've all rotated A early, you're just going to be running like this. Like, you're not going to be over worried about, like, getting angles pre-cleared. You're just going to be running like this. That's when this comes in handy. And then once you start getting into the danger zone, you're obviously, all right, heaven's clear, all right, tree's clear, that side of tree's clear, headshot, default. I know mine were all sloppy right there. You don't have to make fun of me for it. Just woke up today. But you have to know when you want to be doing just general utility crosshair placement as opposed to angle clearing, because there's a big difference between the two, and I hope that my long as fuck explanation has made that perfectly understood. Alright, now another thing you're going to want to learn, just as a general player when it comes to clearing angles, and especially if you're every single silver player I've ever met, sorry, words are hard, if you're just like any other silver player I've ever met, or you are an actual AWPer, you're going to want to know how to actually use the AWP. And I'm just saying it so you guys know, all of you silver players, know you're not an AWP god, just don't. Alright? It costs like double the cost of an AK. Just get good with the AK. Alright? Let one of your teammates off. You don't need 3 ops on T side. Now that call out is done, when you're clearing as an AWPer, some important little tidbits you should know that you might not know right off the bat is that your left leg, when crouched, extends farther than what you can see. So let's say we want to peek B main right here, because there's been a guy peeking this every round with an AWP on CT. If I'm on T side and I do this and I crouch peek, even if my crosshair is perfect, if I'm doing everything I should be, I'll be like this and I can't see anything, and my left leg, since I'm crouched, is already visible for that guy. So before I can even see the opposing player, I can be shot, and or if he doesn't have as good of a reaction time, I'm giving him more time to react because he's seeing my leg before my full body even exposes. So if you want to slow clear an angle with an AWP, you're going to want to make sure, if at all possible, you're doing it from left to right, because your right knee doesn't stick out the same way that your left does. But with that said, slow clearing with an AWP is not a good habit to get into. It generally only works in lower tier play, because a good player with an AK is just going to knock your head off if you just slow peek into him. So with AWPs, you generally want to go for faster peeks on your angles. So like this, you don't want to come in, all right, let me clear tree. You know, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be caught out in no man's land, overextending to the angle when you clear it. Another thing I would like to point out is if you are trying to get into an AWP versus AWP duel, when in doubt, if you are the peeker, do not slow peek. Like, I knew this from my silver days, and it's true up until now. Don't slow peek an AWP, you're just gonna die. Like, unless your reaction time is insane, and they have the reaction time of a stick of butter melting down a hill on a lukewarm spring day, it's not gonna work. As you're slowly peeking, they've already got you. If you want to engage another AWP, you're going to do the same exact thing you do with rifles, except don't worry about pre-aiming head level. You're just going to want to body swing it, but you're going to want to come in, boom, for there, you know, quad, boom, there. And another thing I'd like to point out is the AWP costs a lot of money to get, and it's a very niche weapon to use. I know that everyone likes to think they're good with it, But the thing with an AWP is it's a hit or miss weapon. It's one shot or go. And so although in your Silver Elite Master lobby, you can get away with just going in with an AWP, when you're playing higher tiered players, if you miss this shot, you're already dead. Like, it's game over. You don't have another shot. Even if you manage to get away, you're going to be lit from that other player, if not dead, especially if that's an AWP player right there. If you peek into this AWP and you lose that gunfight, you're going to get punished for it. So if you're trapped in Silver Hell or Gold Nova Hell or whatever rank that you're at that you're trying to get out of, it has to be the little things that you improve on. If you're using an AWP the way that low ranks use an AWP, it's gonna come back to bite you. Like, you need to work on your fundamentals before anything else. It doesn't matter how good of aim you have or game sense you have if you're still messing up on the fundamentals. You could have the most insane reaction time ever. If you don't have good crosshair placement and don't peek angles properly, you're never gonna get out of Gold Nova. It's as simple as that. So with an AWP, if you are challenging another AWP, please don't slow peek it. If you're challenging a rifle player, circumstantially dependent, you can get away with a slow peek. But it depends on a lot of things. If you have noticed that the person you're going to be engaging against is losing most of their gunfights, maybe they're having a bad game and you want to play it safe, and you know, oh, the guy who's always sitting quad, since he's on CT, he only has an M4 and I've been getting him every time. Maybe that's a time you might be able to get away with a slow peek on him, especially if you have above average reaction time. And I'd also like to point out, when it comes to reaction time, the average reaction time for a human being is 250 milliseconds. That's the average reaction time to a visual stimulus. If you see something visual, for your brain to be able to react to it, on average, it's 250 milliseconds. There's different tests you can take to show you your reaction time. My reaction time is about 210 milliseconds, so I'm certainly above average. But when I play against higher tier AWPers, I don't stand a chance. In general, I'm just going to stick to a rifle. I occasionally CT AWP, and that's with my above average reaction time. A player that I used to play on a team with, who was our team AWPer, had a reaction time of like 193 milliseconds, especially if I'm slow peeking into a guy with that reaction time, or even if I fast peek, that's something to be wary of. When it comes to AWPing, since it is a one hit or miss weapon, if you are holding an angle or peeking an angle with it, it's going to come down heavily to reaction time. Especially when you're out of the silver rank, where the question of just hitting your shot is out of the question. As long as their AWPer can point and react and shoot, it's going to come down solely to reaction time and then positional play. That's why when you clear the angle, you want to make sure you're peeking it properly. Now, another thing I'd like to point out is, what is an off angle? When people say an off angle, what do they mean by that? Now, as I stated before, when you're doing your general rifle play, and it's true for AWPs as well, although it's, you know, in AWP you generally don't want to be pre-aiming head level. So if we're coming in and we're doing what I said, where it is the angle check, we're not talking about general utilitarian pre-aiming head level, because off angles, their one weakness is just general swinging like this. So let's say I want to challenge tree room, all right, and let's just say hypothetically I smoked off heaven. So I know, all right, I'm not gonna need to swing heaven like this. As I'm peeking tree, if I see a guy push out of the smoke, I'll obviously react, but I'm not gonna come around this corner doing this and messing up my chance to get this kill if there's a guy there. So if that's the situation and I am doing the angle clearing like this, what makes an off angle work is if some guy is just sitting here, because this isn't something that I'm going to be pre-aiming for. So as soon as I'm swinging wide to clear this, he's already pre-aimed head level and he's knocked my head off. That's how an off angle works. But if I just come around the corner swinging like this, his head's knocked off. But in general, the difference between a Master Guardian play versus a Legendary Eagle play is that the Master Guardian will come around like this, and it'll work in the 1 in 20 chance the guy's at the off angle. But if they're holding the actual angle, you're going to get stomped in the nuts for trying to peek it with the general wide swing, with the general just pre-aim wide swing. And in general, if you're doing this wide swing, you're going to be more accurate because A, your player model is moving, and B, your mouse is moving. So there's just a higher chance that your crosshair isn't going to be properly placed. So the beauty of an off angle is if I know that this guy's been sitting headshot every time, and maybe you try and hold headshot from here instead, that's what an off angle is it's going to punish the guy who's clearing the headshot angle. I'm swinging headshot like this. All right, trees clear, time for headshot. I'm doing this. If you've got an AWP or something, or if you're pre-aimed head level with your AK or Deagle, that off angle is how I get killed. That's how they work. All right, now just to summarize my main points one more time is 1, we have our general placement versus our angle clearing. You're going to want to have different crosshair placement for both of those. When you're just running around the map, you're obviously going to want to be pre-aimed head level. But when you're challenging into a gunfight, that's when you want to be pre-aimed at that angle to where you shouldn't even have to move your mouse. I'm not moving my mouse for any of this, but if a guy peeks me, his head's going to get knocked off. Then secondly, we have our AWP play, because AWP's handled differently than general rifles or a Deagle / pistol round play, and they have the same fundamentals, but you're going to want to use them differently. You're not going to want to slow peek with an AWP into another AWP, or with a rifle into an AWP for that matter. Just don't slow peek an AWP. Just don't do it. You're going to die. Doesn't matter how bad they are. Well, I shouldn't say that. They can be pretty bad and mess up. And then thirdly, we have our off angles and how to counter them. If only I could spell. Well, I hope this video is helpful for anyone watching. I'll try and make some more content similar to this. Sorry I haven't been uploading that much lately. I've just been distracted with a lot of real life things. I have no money right now. I'm trying to not starve. I've been thriving off of nothing but stale bologna and Red Bulls for the past month. Please save me from this nightmare, please. But if you're interested in content like this, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed the video, like. If you think I'm a piece of shit, please dislike. And, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching.
I like this new generation of music.
We've got a situation in there. I'd rather not discuss till the manager gets here.
Oh, there he is!